Welcome to the Channel 2.0 podcast. My name is Ken Wilson, the host of the podcast. In the Channel 2.0 podcast, we talk about everything from 2 a.m. trust all the way to Channel 2.0. But today we're going to color a little bit outside the lines and talk a little work-life balance. Now, I don't really like work-life balance conversations because in today's era, when we're all working from home, we're traveling, we're all over the place, it really gets kind of blurry lines of where life ends and work begins, or work ends and life begins. And it's something that I've always struggled in my life to feel like, hey, am I doing the right? Am I spending enough time at work, generating enough revenue to take care of my family? And at the same time, am I present enough for my family to be a good father? So I figured today, why not start in a better place than bringing in some of the newest dads to the channel, the newest channel dads. I want to welcome Kevin Zimmerman, Vincent DiCicco, and Justin Marano. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Cam. Appreciate it.
Appreciate you having me.
All right, we can't start a dad podcast, a dad edition podcast, without a couple dad jokes. It just wouldn't set the tone. So I want to hear everybody's best dad joke that they have. Vincent, why don't you start it off?
All right, no pressure. Okay, here's one. Why don't crabs donate to charity?
Oh, you really making it? You make
because they're shellfish.
Dude, my favorite dad joke is why don't lobsters like to share?
Lay it on them, Kay. Lay it on them.
Scrap that. When does a joke become a dad joke? When the punchline becomes apparent.
I think the first time I met Kev, you were just a Rolodex of one-liners, and it was the thing that resonated the most for me with you at that time. I don't know if props were allowed, but I brought some because this.
Is this what you get when you become a dad?
Oh yeah,
a bundle of dad joke books.
That's called preparation, right there.
Yeah, and so I have a whole repertoire and funnel of dad jokes, but the one that I love the most is the one that my kid asks people, and he says, "Cam, there's something wrong with my booty." What's wrong with your booty? It has a crack. And I lose it every time.
That's appropriate for a 3.5-year-old. Yeah, that's probably a pretty good joke, right?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Well, good. My favorite is, what do you get when you cross a sexy brown chicken with a sexy brown cow?
The sexiest barnyard animal, I might add.
That's right. So besides Justin, besides the amazing ability to now tell dad jokes with having that title, what has been your favorite part about being a dad?
Just the blessing of loving another being so much every single day, and that feeling. As much as I feel it every day, it always feels like the first time, right? When there's a new word or a new phrase, it's some things we don't want to hear, right? The moments, right? The night before Christmas and putting together the bike that he asked for Santa and then teaching him how to. I mean, there's not a day that goes by. Like, those moments are the best thing, and it's every single day, multiple times a day.
Kevin, how about you?
I mean, look, I
that's a hard one. That's a hard one to follow, man.
I'm sorry.
Look, I think that my son's a little bit younger, right? He's 15 months old, and I think the most rewarding thing, in addition to what Justin said, is there's just those moments, whether you're putting him down for a nap or putting him down for bed, or he cries in the middle of the night, and you walk in there and that little kid's on your shoulder and he lets out that huge sigh, right? Where it's like, I just wish that I could feel that, where like all the stress of life just kind of like wipes away. And it's in that moment that that like you're providing such a safe haven, and like there's no other place on the planet that little guy would rather be than on dad's shoulder. And you, through that, it's like your blood pressure drops, like just everything, like doesn't matter what kind of day it could be, right? I feel like those moments where you're able to provide that, and then that intrinsic feeling comes back into you, there's nothing like it in the world. People always told me like you won't get it until you're a parent, right? And I never knew that to be so true than it is right now.
Yeah, there's nothing better than being gone on a work trip and you're going 100 miles an hour and you're exhausted and you get home and you want nothing but to just go crash somewhere. And as you get home, your daughter runs up and is so excited to see you and gives you a big hug, says that she loves you. And all of a sudden, all that stuff that you went through the last week it disappears 100%.
Yep.
Yeah, you find another gear. Kev, I'll come over later. You could put your head right here.
I don't know if it's going to be as impactful, but we can try it.
We should try. We should definitely try.
He's like, you'd be surprised.
Vincent, how about yourself?
I think these two gents summed up a lot of it. My son is only 6 months old, and so the things he's starting to do now from when he was just like 1, 2, 3 months, it's just so cool to watch it every day, and his eyes when they look at you, and like one other thing that's been really cool about becoming a parent is getting to watch your wife transform into like mom mode. Mm-hmm. I think that's been like, I've been a mama's boy all my life, so I kind of had some concept of like, what like a mom in
Italian, a mama's boy.
Yeah, but to see my wife turn into a mom, like they have superpowers, man. Like it's incredible the stuff that they're capable of. Like I don't think I would be able to do that job. And so those two combinations of just watching him every day and getting to spend time with him and seeing him grow, and then watching my wife kind of transform into this like super mom. Those two things have just been like a blessing and a privilege to be able to be a part of.
And you've also learned when your wife's watching this later, you just gained.
Dude, just nailed it out of the gate.
Smart man.
I was just going to say, there's nothing more sexy than seeing a mom in her element, right? Like mom and the kids and comforting them and taking care of them. Yeah, there's nothing more sexier than that.
Unfortunately, I don't think they always share that sentiment.
No, definitely not.
Okay. Nobody gives you the manual when these things come into your house. I remember walking out of the hospital with this teeny little animal furball person that has life, knowing nothing about what I was doing, and the hospital was like, okay, go ahead, you can leave now. And I'm like, you trust me? Like,
did you sign the waiver?
Are you sure? Like, I don't, like, where's the parenting program and all that stuff? And didn't come. So some of that was a big shock to me. I want to know, up to this point, what was the thing that you weren't expecting about being a father? What's hit you that you weren't expecting? Kevin, why don't you start out?
Well, look, I can echo that same statement. Like we had a weird situation where we ended up having to leave the hospital around midnight. We thought we were going to stay that night, but they needed the bed, whatever. And I just remember driving home. First of all, the slowest I've ever driven in my entire human life. But driving home, and we pulled into the driveway, and I remember just looking in the rearview mirror and seeing Allie in the car seat, and it's just like, oh, okay, like
this got real.
This is real life. I think the thing that I didn't expect was learning that your heart can exist outside of your body. Mm. And like, right. Vin was just saying that his son's 6 months old. Just like when they sit up for the first time, right? Like these milestones, and they just smile at you. And Vinny, you've got a lot, like there's so many cool things that are going to happen between where you're at and where I'm at. Just like the cool things that are going to happen between, right where I'm at and where Justin's at. I just think that like, we get caught up in the, monotony sometimes of our daily grinds. And the fact that every single day is a new day, like Justin was saying, or a new word, a new milestone, whatever. I wasn't expecting it to be as fun as it has been and as rewarding as it has been, and joining in on that, kind of with him. I knew about it, right? Obviously we know, but when it's your kid, it's just so much different.
Yeah, it's a lot easier than when they're yours than some kid at the playground doing mean, nasty things. You just have a whole different level. Did you always want to be a dad, Kevin? Was this something you
Always,
always wanted to be?
always. And it's like, once you get the title, it's like, you could forget CEO or owner or anything. I think the thing that I'm going to be most proud of for the rest of my life is DAD. It doesn't even come close.
All right, Vincent, what's most shocking for you?
I've always had like this kind of obsessive personality. So when I get into something new, I'm like all about it. I've got to learn everything about it. I don't think the level of obsession has ever been this high for anything other than maybe myself my entire life. And so to Kev's point, like, the amount of just interest and time, and like I just want to be around the little guy and just be hanging out with him and just watching him. And a lot of times I'll just put him down on the playmat and I'll just sit there and just kind of just stare at him and just want to be in his presence, right? And so for me, like that was definitely a big shock, something new. And I just hope it never wears off. I hope I just always want to just, that's what I want to do, just be around the little guy and watch him do his thing. So yeah, that's where I would go with it.
You got about 14 years of that. And when they become a teenager, it's a little bit different.
Yeah. Get out of
And
here,
you're
Dad.
like,
But I did always want to be dad for sure. I think that I caught baby fever even more when my younger brother had his first, seeing my nephew. So
Justin, how about you? What's shocking to you?
Um, you know, I read the books, right? What to expect, and I did my prep, and I went into it with an element of confidence. Um, and I don't have a big family. There aren't a lot of children, so I wasn't exposed to it. I think up in, my son has one cousin who's a couple years older, and up until my sister had her, Alexis was actually the youngest in the family, right? So, but in spite of all that, I felt really good. Uh, I was shocked at how many mistakes I made, and
The
uh,
learning curve is real.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was, you know, we all are cut from very similar cloth, right? And share a membership card to the Broken Chromosome Clan as well, I believe. So, like, I think, we usually get things right. We're very competitive. And just like how many times, like, oh, I didn't think of that. I didn't, realize this. And that was a challenge that you have to kind of work through.
You always wanted to be a dad, or is this
Oh,
a
yeah.
new thing for you? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Forever. Forever.
Great. For me, I think the most shocking thing is I go in. I raised my sisters a little bit, babysat them a lot. They were 10 years adopted, 10 years younger than me. So through my teenage years, I got a good understanding of what it was like taking care of kind of kids and children. But I think when I had my first kid, I was so ready to like just teach it everything and, teach them all the stuff, my wisdom and knowledge. And I think the most shocking thing to me is how much I actually didn't know and how much they taught me. I feel like they taught me so much more than I was ever I tell my youngest all the time, super put together, 16-year-old. I feel like she raises me more than I raise her. That was always shocking to me.
Also, nobody prepared me for toddler poops. Like
Potty training.
baby poop, fine. They start eating solids. It's a whole other ballgame.
Dude, I'm staring down the barrel of it right now, buddy.
Yeah, good luck, buddy.
Thanks.
Yeah. Then you have the potty training. You guys got the fun times coming ahead. All right, let's talk crazy stories. Look, each one of my kids, I have three, right? 20, 18, and 16. Each one of my kids, I can remember vividly the day that they were born and all the chaos that ensued around it. My oldest was born uh, medically induced 3 weeks early because of toxemia, so we had all the magnesium and the grogginess, and my oldest didn't cry for several days after he was born. My middle boy was 6 weeks early, spent 10 days in an incubator. And then my last one was born within 30 minutes and we got pulled over on the freeway and, all the craziness that comes on that. Vincent, your child, what, 6 months old? So it's
Six.
brand new. So
Yeah.
introduce us to the story and how long ago was it? And tell us a little bit about kind of your family structure.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. So I'm older. I'm 38. My wife is 39. So she was 38 when we had the baby. I was 37. Um, let's just start off by saying those recliner chairs they put in the hospital rooms, unbelievable, right? Who had that idea? Unbelievable. Should not be allowed. But we spent 7 days in the hospital. She was in labor for almost 40 hours and then had emergency C-section. And then we're like, okay, we're out of the forest here. And then we're with the baby in the next room. A few hours later, nurse came in. She's like, hey, he looks a little shaky. We need to do some tests. We have no idea what the hell's going on. We think he's fine. Right. He was having a problem regulating his blood sugar. And so immediately up to the NICU. And that was probably, I don't know, it felt almost surreal because I'm still like trying to make sure wife's okay, make sure baby's okay. I'm lost running on, the worst sleep of my life for the last 4 days. And so he ended up being in NICU for 3 days. And you know how that goes. It's like 24 hours they're in there. You get a chair, a plastic like classroom chair to sit on for as long as you could stand it. And so we were just doing shifts. She did not sleep for 3 days. She literally sat in that chair with him in that room. So it was definitely like thrown right into the deep end out of the gate. But got him home. He's doing awesome. And, yeah, just happy, and appreciative for all the nurses and the staff at the hospital, and definitely my wife for being an absolute trooper. So yeah, that was the first one. Maybe the second one will be a little easier, fingers crossed.
Yeah, they'll all be different. And look, there's nothing more discouraging or feeling more helpless than not knowing how to be protective as a new father, right? All these things going on, and there's nothing you can do about it. Feel super helpless. Yeah. Kevin, how about you? So wait, Vincent, your child name, how old?
6 months old Luciano.
Okay.
I actually want Justin to go next because I kind of feel bad about your story considering what I've heard so far.
Sure, I'll take the torch. The journey to delivery. I don't think we have enough time on this podcast for me to go through the whole thing. So I'll give the Cliff Note version. And for the younger generations watching this podcast, Cliff Notes is like Blinkist.
it's
Yes,
it's when you
sidebar.
put
Thanks
thing
for
into
clarifying.
ChatGPT. It's when you put something into ChatGPT and you ask it to clarify, right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a COVID, situation. I found out my wife was pregnant while I'm driving a 20-something foot long U-Haul with a car in tow from New York down to Florida. And it was a crazy time. I couldn't go to I didn't go to one doctor's visit with her. I wasn't allowed. And then the rules around whether or not I could be there in the delivery room were changing. I could be there, I couldn't be there. I could be in the hospital, but I couldn't be in the hospital. If I went into the delivery room, I couldn't leave until we were released. So it was it was kind of stressful. But we were out to dinner at a steakhouse, Capitol Grill, I think, with a buddy of mine and his girlfriend who happened to be a nurse, and we're sitting there, and she's looking at my wife. She's like, "Are you doing okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I think I'm having contractions." Luckily, the steakhouse was like a half a mile from the hospital, so uh, grabbed her out of there. I had the car mostly packed anyway at that point because we were getting close to the delivery date. Uh, and I dropped her off, and they said, "You need to wait here." And I waited for about 2 hours outside.
That's terrible.
Not knowing what's going on, can't call, right? She's not picking up, no communication. And finally, somebody came down and brought me in. So it was a crazy night. They tried to deliver naturally. And after like several hours, I don't even know because I was delirious at that time. It was already into the wee hours of the morning. I think I said, "Induce. Let's make this happen." And just as I made that call, I got a call from Alan Sandler. My boss, owner of Sandler Partners, and first my wife is like, "Why are you picking up the phone?" So again, lessons learned. Don't do that when you're in the delivery room. Don't pick up the phone.
Don't
Uh,
do don't take the work conference call in the delivery room. Is that what you
yeah.
say?
But yeah, everything worked out great, and uh, it was the most rewarding experience of my life.
Man, I can't even imagine trying to do that during COVID.
Yeah.
What a rough one. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Kevin.
The reason why I wanted to go last is because like I kind of consider us a little bit blessed in the fact that we didn't have a lot of the struggles that a lot of people have. But one thing we learned is you have that birth plan, you write it all down. Day of, you just scrap that thing, man, because you can't follow it. There's no plans, standard operating procedures, or anything. Our main hiccup was that our OB had a death in the family, and Allie was not going to have her chosen OB, right? The person that's shepherded us through this journey of pregnancy all these times, and she felt really uncomfortable about that. So the only option we had was another location for Memorial. Instead of 20 minutes from our house, was about an hour and 15 minutes from our house, and she had to schedule a C-section. Her birthday is October 30th. Our due date was November 4th. The only slot available before she had to leave out of town was Halloween. So pulling up to the hospital at 4:30. I don't think any of us got any sleep the night before. She definitely didn't. I didn't. And totally different plan, right? The whole C-section aspect of it is totally different. And I think the one thing that I did not know about, wasn't really ready for, but ended up being probably the most rewarding 10 minutes of my life is when a C-section happens, right, the mother goes right to post-op. She goes to recovery. So, you end up in the room with the baby, and the first skin-to-skin contact is actually with you. I don't know if that's what happened with you guys. That's what happened with me. And like putting them underneath my hoodie and getting them up to temperature and getting to dress them up in a little Batman outfit, because after all, it was Halloween. It was the first thing he wore. I couldn't believe the other parents that were delivering that day didn't think about it, but he ended up being the celebrity of front of the maternity ward, dressed as Batman on 6 a.m. for Halloween morning. I just think that you got to roll with the punches and, be there for your partner and just be an active and committed member. And, the one piece of advice that I got from someone actually on this call, Justin, he gave me very sage advice to buy as much food and coffee for the nurses as humanly possible. And I took I totally took a page out of his playbook and, brought in Panera bread one morning and, there's a little Cuban coffee place downstairs, shocker, in South Florida. I would go down and I'd get like five coladas of Cuban coffee and give them to the staff, and just, the reciprocity there, the care that we got and the experience that we had, was 10 times better, just because it's very shocking at just how little they're appreciated. And the work they do is borderline, like angelic.
Yeah.
Thanks, buddy. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
My Uber Eats bill was more than the hospital bill. But
Yeah.
I swear.
What's shocking sometimes is, we all go through our life so used to our routine, right? We're caught up in our careers. We're independent, kind of going through thinking we got it figured out, and then there's nothing that changes the dynamic of your life up more than now having something. Maybe a puppy is a close second, but having having a child dramatically changes the dynamic of your life, specifically trying to figure out how to work, how to manage time with the spouse, or your significant other. Curious, for me, my sales career started when we had our first child. My wife was pregnant. I was making $10 an hour as a warehouse worker, and she said, "Hey, when we have this kid, I'm going to stay home and raise it." And here I'm thinking, okay, so we go from $20 an hour to $10 an hour. How are we going to raise this kid on $10 an hour? And so I found a sales career. I didn't do well in the beginning, but that's where my sales career started. And so it completely changed our dynamic. She did stay at home, and I had the blessing of her doing that while I struggled trying to figure out how to sell stuff. Curious, how does it work for you guys? Who wants to go first? Jeff? Kevin, you want to go first?
Yeah, look, the total antithesis of what you just said. I mean, I'm lucky to call the other two guys besides yourself on this podcast friends, and you got three very, very career oriented, very driven guys who, we all have one common thread, is that we're probably, I mean, Justin a little bit more so, we're probably the oldest new dads that we know. I mean, I was the last of my friends to have kids, and Vinny, I was almost the exact same age as you, man. So that dynamic, I think, was a little bit different, right? Not having to struggle as much as you did, Cam, right? Like having built a business, having built a brand, and having the professional career, not necessarily on autopilot, because that's a terrible term, but there was a huge blessing in that regard, where I often felt a lot of guilt because not joining the crew. And, I remember when Cade was born, or CJ as we call him, all of my friends of 7, 8, even, 9, 10-year-olds, right? So it's like, we're at totally different phases in life. They're going on joint SeaWorld trips and going to the carnival and stuff. And I'm, cleaning the puke off my shoulder. Right. So, I think that dynamic, played into a lot. I think the hardest struggle for me was I was such a road warrior at the time. I was in a different city every single week. TCG was sold to Talaris a couple months after I found out Allie was pregnant. So that whole dynamic, just literally just life pausing, right? And not being on the road as much. And I never thought I'd enjoy being a homebody as much as I have been. Like Vincent was saying, like, just being in awe of this little guy. That's probably been one of the more like rewarding things for me, is just slowing down, all those quintessential phrases of smelling the roses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, but just slowing down, taking life day by day, even hour by hour at times, right? Has probably been the biggest change, for me. And, I consider, I often was fueled with guilt, that the fact that I waited so long. But now in hindsight, it's probably one of greatest luxuries and blessings that I could have ever asked for.
I'm definitely jealous of the dads who started with a little more life experience and maturity. I mean, I was 22 when I had my kid. I was a kid, kids raising kids. For you guys who, are later on in life and have spent a little bit of time actually figuring out who you are, I think you'll do a much better job being able to present that way to each other.
Brad, you were a lot younger at high school graduation than us kids will be.
Fair. Vincent, 6 months have gone by since your child was born. You're now back in the work world. How does it work for you? How do you balance it?
Day by day, to Kev's point, hour by hour, man. Like, I like to think I have all the answers, just to be blindly confident and give myself a little boost, but I don't. Figuring it out as I go. I think one thing I've definitely tried to do more of and have been semi-successful at it is just putting my phone down and just leaving it elsewhere. Because in our business, right, there really is no time off from partners. There really is no time off from deals. Like, things are happening at all times of the day, and so you could literally be on that thing 24/7. And so when I'm with him, I try to make sure that I put it somewhere where it's not distracting me. I can be fully present and just appreciating the time that I am at home, because I am still a road warrior. I'm still out traveling quite a bit. It comes in waves, which I feel fortunate that it's not necessarily every week. But when I am here, making the most of the time, and fortunately we don't travel on weekends for work, at least 99% of the time, right? I'm home. So those are, weekends are family time. And it's just, we just live a wild lifestyle now. I mean, we're in bed by 8:30, 9 p.m. every night. That includes Fridays, Saturdays. We're just big party animals over here. And I think this year, for New Year's, we were asleep at 9:45, which is pretty late for us. And so you can imagine it's a different dynamic from what it has been in the past. So when I'm out at these channel events and 12 o'clock rolls around now, I'm looking for the exit, trying to sneak out of there before get some sleep. So
I love it. You're eating dinner at 4 o'clock with the rest of the gray hairs, right?
yeah, I've never been up this early in my life either. Is anybody else? Kev, you a morning person? I've never been up at 4:30 consistently every morning.
I always burned the midnight oil. I was just not from like a social perspective, just working. That's when I caught up on my admin stuff.
Yeah.
You don't anymore. You got to completely rewire yourself. But it happens whether you like it or not.
Yeah, you're forced to because you're exhausted.
You're not alone. I haven't seen the clock strike midnight on New Year's in 4 or 5 years now, let alone 10 o'clock at night. So enjoy the next few years and figure out your rhythm, right? It's, the body adjusts, you acclimate. I think it's trial and error, right? My wife owns her own company. Right? She's moving a million miles an hour. Sometimes, most days, with 2 ships passing in the night. We've been very purposeful around finding time for each other to sit and make sure that we connect emotionally, but also not just let it be about the tactical with like the house and the baby, right? Like, just make sure you're keeping that emotional connection because it's so important, but also not forgetting about the tactical as well. But don't lead with it, right? And you're going to make mistakes. I have one of those whiteboards that I put up in the laundry room so she knows like my travel schedule and when I'm going to be and where I'm going to be. And like, as corny as that is, like, these things help, right? And if you could get ahead of it and make them become your North Star as you navigate through fatherhood, parenthood, I feel like I'm the expert on well, except for you, Cam. You've kind of been doing this a lot longer than me, but
I wouldn't consider myself the expert, though.
No, none of us are, right?
You're the older twin, Justin.
Yeah. A lot of it's trial and error. A lot of it's just, making sure you're communicating with your significant other and just being there for the baby first and foremost and always.
So let's talk tactical. You brought up tactical. Here's the scenario. You have a big meeting tomorrow. You got to move. You got to do something. You forgot to put it on your calendar, but as you talk to your wife, she also has a big meeting tomorrow. Who's watching the kid? How do you negotiate? How do you negotiate
Rock, paper,
that with your
scissors.
Old school, baby.
pull straws, pick straws, or something like that?
It's funny. And everyone's situation's different. But we have my brother-in-law, 30 years in the New York City Fire Department. So I talk in terms of tours, right, or military, right. So you have a 24 tour. If I have him at night, then I have him in the morning, and then she has him the next night, the next morning. So whoever's that's just the cycle. And you have to negotiate. If you're, hey, can you pick this up for me? But then you're gonna, well, what's it worth to you? And so I lose all those negotiations big time. But again, figuring out the schedule. So if it was my morning, I need to call an audible professionally.
Yeah, well said. All right, your children are now older. What are the expectations? Look, I'm a huge sports guy. I played all the sports growing up, and I figured my kids would be sports players. And my son was a break dancer. My middle boy's a theater kid. My daughter plays the bass. No sports is kind of where my kids all ended up. What is the expectation? What expectation do you think you have on your kids that will shock you when you get older?
I'll say I was a pretty competitive athlete growing up. So I think for me, I definitely would love to see my son incorporate sports into his life. But my expectation, and again, you guys know my wife, is for him to keep his mama happy and proud, because that's going to trump anything that I want out of him.
Vincent, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, like Justin, like you, I'm sure like Kev, big sports guy growing up, I would love nothing more than for my son to be into whatever sport he's a fan of. Just because I think there's a lot of life lessons and discipline that comes along with that is just good for his soul and him as a human being. But my biggest expectation is that he's just a good human. I think I can pretty much accept anything else outside of that. So if we get that one right, I'll put that in the win column, and everything else will fall into place.
Well, since you guys both went super sentimental, I'll take a different route. I think it's just funny to watch how they ingest the world. And like, I'll give you a perfect example. I'm sure Justin's got it. Don't worry, Vincent, you're going to have it soon. The Fisher Price basketball hoop. And like, he'll pick up the ball and he'll put it in the hoop one time. And then after that, all he wants to do is kick it around like a soccer ball. And just like watching like the way that like he interacts with like something as simple as a little basketball. I think I can speak for all of us. Obviously, you said, being a good human, but just, I'm sure, Cam, like you mentioned that, one of your kids is a thespian. Dude, you're no less proud when they nail their lines or nail their monologue as you would if they were hitting the ball at the fence. Right. So I think that, being present and being passionate about what your kid's passionate about and being their number one fan, their number one cheerleader, I think is probably what I'm looking forward to the most. Selfishly, I mean, he's got a little set of Fisher Price golf clubs, and we work on stuff like that. I mean, and just seeing how they blossom and what part of life do they want to wrap their life around, and I'm just ready to be there for that.
I'll tell you, I'm a little bit of a softie, known to get a little emotional. We go to the Disney movies. I'm the one that's got tears in his eyes, and my wife's like, "Why are you crying?"
I cried more in the hospital than she did.
So my daughter decided to start playing music. Probably at 12, she decided to play the bass. In her very first season of School of Rock, they gave her a singing part, a Jackson 5 piece where she's supposed to sing and play the bass at the same time. And she was so nervous that you couldn't even hear her sing. Like, just her stage presence was all crunched in. She was super quiet. And like, she said to me after that, she's like, I am never going to sing again. Never. I'll play the bass. I'm not going to sing. Well, here we are several years later. She's 16 and she now is a screamer. She's the one with the deep guttural yelling in the mic while she's playing her bass. And there's nothing that makes me more proud than seeing my child who's gone from something that scared her so bad and fight through it and fight through it and fight through it to where she could get up on stage and sing in a way that would scare the shit out of most people. But she did it with such confidence that I'm over there crying. They're singing death metal and I got tears coming out of my eyes. It's just a whole different experience, that's for sure. All right. Advice now for those who don't have dads. What should you be most cautious of? What advice are you going to give to the dads that are coming into the space where you guys are now at? Justin, you want to start?
My advice, regardless of the cost, if you can, if it's within your financial means, get a night nurse the first few months. Okay, like when you leave the hospital and they come out and check the car seat to make sure it's like in there and secure, they shouldn't let you take your baby until, where's the night nurse? Oh, no night nurse? Back in the hospital. Like, game changer for your health, especially if you're working, right? If the community watching this are professionals in the channel as we are, it will allow you to more quickly find balance and be more present and enjoy those moments, especially the ones that are early on more.
It's hard to be a good dad when you can't keep your eyes open. That's for sure. Kevin, how about yourself?
Never say no to help. I was very surprised early on that some of the people you'd expect least can be some of the biggest help, right? Like, people always say, oh, sleep when the baby sleeps. What? We all know that's a crock of crap, right? It's just like, it never works out that way. You've got a million other things to do, right? But having someone over there to just listen to the baby monitor so you can catch, an hour of shut eye. Early on, as I'm sure, Vincent's in right now, it's like, my dad or her mom would walk through the door and we'd be like, see ya, right in the bed. Like, if I can get an hour and a half of sleep, like, we're taking it because we were up all night long. The other piece of advice too is, don't wish for the next thing, the next milestone. Like, just be present. They're never gonna be that little ever again. So it's like when you're in the throes of it and you have no idea what's going on and you're sleep deprived and you just think that, like, I look back on those moments now, a mere, 6 months ago, and it's like, oh man, like, if only I had recognized a little bit more of that, right? Some of the most sage advice I've gotten, and I try and remind myself of daily, is one of my best friends told me, because he's got, older kids, like, you never know when you're going to pick them up the last time. You never know when you're going to read your last bedtime story. Like, no one ever tells you this is the last time. So if you just treat every time like the last time, then you'll find yourself being ever present. Perfect example is my son took a while to like hold a bottle and feed himself, by himself. And, I guess I wasn't really prepared for like the last time I'd feed him a bottle. And, at our sales kickoff a few weeks ago, I was talking to my good friend, Graham Scott, a little name drop there. And he said to me, he goes, Kev, he goes, if I could go back in time and feed my kid a bottle one more time, I'd do it tomorrow. And he's like, just soak it in. It's frustrating. It sucks. It's a rite of passage, but you just never know when that last time's going to be. So if you treat every time like the last, you'll have a little more cherished memories.
Yeah, well said. We all want our kids to grow up until they do. Why not? Why not just focus on not wanting them to grow up and enjoy every moment? Well,
Yeah,
well said. Vincent.
time is a thief. Time is a thief,
Yeah,
man. Just
yeah.
pause.
Vincent?
Well, I'm 6 months in, so I guess you could say I'm pretty much an expert at this point and very well qualified to be giving advice. So I think the biggest thing that I try to remind myself and remind the wife is like, nobody has it all figured out. Like, give yourself some grace. Like, you will be okay. Everything will work out. Is something to remember. And then, of course, to Kevin's point, like, enjoy every moment, even the ones that are a little brutal, because time is fleeting, and before you know it, they'll be graduating high school, and it seems like the 6 months went by in the blink of an eye. So I have so much more appreciation for like just the daily, because in our everyday life, I think we kind of just watch them tick off the calendar and things fly by. But now that you've got this other life, that's such a big part of yours, it just slow down a little bit, right? Can always do that next thing a little bit later.
Well said. Well said. Um, our our society has evolved into something I find very interesting and honestly makes me a little sad. When we were 100 years ago, you did exactly what your dad did, right? If your dad was a carpenter, you were a carpenter. If your dad was a farmer, you were a farmer. And it's just recently, within the last couple decades, that has kind of changed. That at a point at 16, you no longer see your kids. They're off working at McDonald's or Taco Bueno, or, name your, name your favorite fast food restaurant there. Are you going to allow your kids or bring your kids into the industry? Do you want them to come work for you? How does that, how do you view that?
I got no problem going first here. And I'll keep it short because I know we're up against the bell here. I had the blessing of working for and with my own mother in the finance world, and she I mean, it was my decision, right? But she brought me into the business, and I loved working with her. Hated the business. It's actually what brought me back into technology. And I can say this: I'm extraordinarily passionate, as a lot of these other guys, as all of us are, about what we do. And the channel has provided me, blessings beyond anything I could have ever imagined. And if he's even remotely interested in it, I'd love nothing more than to have him be a part of it. Now, some people watching this might not know, but my sister's a channel manager, my first cousin's a channel manager, and like every other person that's above the age of 18 in my family is involved in the channel or technology sales in some way, shape, or form. So
Lots of Zimmermans
sure,
out there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure that if it goes that way, or if I'm still even involved in it at that point, I'd love nothing more than to work right beside him, whether it's this business or another business.
Any other insights from you two?
No, in give or take 20 years from now, right, when Sandler Partners is probably the last TSD, having acquired all others. We're trending that way, right?
Shameless plug. Shameless
Yeah.
plug.
Wow. This is about dads, Justin.
I think we'd all say the same thing. We'd support our kids in whatever they wanted to do, right? And if there were absolutely no other options, I mean nothing, then I'd be happy, kidding, to bring them into the channel.
Yeah, I concur to that.
Look, they already kind of go to work with us anyways, because they're probably Vincent's sitting right his son's bedroom. He's probably laying on the floor anyway. So it's a bring your kid to work day when you work from home every day, right? So you
I
get
brought
that
my
anyway.
parents to work at IT Expo this past IT Expo. They
Oh,
actually
that's
came to the
great.
show floor. We got to see what.
Power move, Kev. Power move.
Yeah, man. They wanted to come see what Lynn and I do for a living. And, it's kind of cool just to finish on a high note here. Um, my parents said it was one of the best days of their lives because they got to get approached by all these people that just wanted to tell them how awesome their kids were. And, I didn't think my mom or my dad were going to leave the show floor at IT Expo in tears, let alone happy tears. And now that we're all parents, it's just like a cool full circle moment where, as a parent, like, what more would you rather hear than just how great of a job you did raising two individuals? So,
Yeah.
I think being a part of what they do is more important than them doing it with us, right? Like, going back to that cheerleader aspect, right? Just being a part of it, I think will be more rewarding than anything else.
Yeah, well
Kev,
said.
coming out of the expo, like, do they, like, if your parents were asked, can they explain what you do? Because if they can, I'd love for them to talk to my parents.
Gentlemen,
I've always thought that we're professional dot connectors. That's what we do for a living.
We've been cold
gentlemen,
hard.
thank you so much for sharing your insights and the wisdom that you have obtained to raising kids up to this point. I'm sure there will be plenty of those who are excited to listen and hear the way that you guys do it. And look, we all do it a little bit different. There's no wrong way to do it as long as there's love in your heart and kindness, geared towards your children. I believe you can't do it wrong. And I would be remiss if I didn't give a special shout out to those significant others of ours that also put in a significant amount of time and effort, to help us raise the loved ones that we have in our life and trying to do it together. And look, it's not easy, right? Two people trying to raise a child and work and doing all that. It's a lot of chaos. So we should just take a moment to thank those that do it with us.
Amen.
Till next time, thank you everybody for joining. We'll talk soon.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Cam.
All right, gents.